Hello, everybody, and welcome into Camel Call with Evan Budrovich. I'm Chris Haire. Now, I know just about a month we told you that, hey, we'll probably talk to you sometime in August when the 24-25 sports season heats up. But, Evan, a lot going on with baseball. Of course, a longtime head coach, formerly an assistant here. He had been a part of this program for literally nearly 2 decades. Justin Haire takes the head coaching position at The Ohio State University. Campbell quickly goes out and gets someone that was a former assistant here, was a former assistant of Haire's, and really got this thing rolling in new head baseball coach. Welcome back, Chris Marx.
Chris Marx is a neat dude, man. I mean, I remember seeing him at the Purdue matchup. Remember that it snowed that morning and the players had to snow the field off? So they came for batting practice, and we were setting up broadcast equipment.
Yeah.
So we chatted for 10,
That's
15
right.
minutes.
A couple of years ago, he was here playing Campbell, and there is a lot of intertwining, and we will talk about how he has basically been an assistant for the last 2 Campbell head coaches. So much to talk about, so many good things. We will kind of put a bow, if we can. It'll be a big bow on the Justin Haire era, and also tell you some more about Chris Marx. But we want you to hear what the public heard yesterday, the press conference officially welcoming Chris Marx to the family. You will hear from Campbell president Brad Creed. You will hear from our director of athletics, Hannah Bazemore, and then Chris Marx himself. So here is the press conference from yesterday.
Good morning, baseball fans. It's good to see you here today, and just sports fans in general, too. So glad to see you here today. Your presence testifies to your support of our programs. And to your prayer, I would like to add a special prayer of thanksgiving for the person who invented air conditioning. We're grateful for that today. We got some hot news in this hot time of year, and you'll hear about it, in just a moment. Campbell University proves that you can come home again. This time, you cross home plate because with this hire, we've hit a home run. And I can't say enough good things about Chris Marx, and especially his wife, Nikki. When I had a phone call with him, she used to cut my hair. And I said, tell her you had a Zoom call with me. It's been 5 years, and I look like Forrest Gump when he was running across the United States. But we welcome them back to our community as a part of our family. And to tell you more about this exciting announcement and the great days ahead for Campbell baseball, I'm going to invite to the podium our very capable and excellent athletic director, Hannah Bazemore. Please welcome her to the podium.
Thank you again for being here. Welcome back to Campbell University. Welcome back to Coach Marx and his wonderful family. It has been an amazing 6 years for Campbell baseball. 4 conference tournament titles, 5 regular season titles, 5 trips to the NCAAs, 3 regional finals, and a top 10 ranking. Campbell baseball is now known from coast to coast. Former Campbell stars Zach Neto and Cedric Mullins are now household names. And the man who recruited Neto and Mullins and many others, who set the foundation and got this thing rolling, and then helped build it to new heights as an assistant and is now back as the head coach. Chris Marx helped make Campbell baseball into what it is today. He was there for the back-to-back championships and regional bids and the first regional final. But during his 5 years as an assistant here, he also fell in love with this community, with this university, with our fans, with this place. He liked this place so much that the only person that could get him to leave was former Campbell head coach Greg Goff, who started the winning tradition here a decade and a half ago. As an assistant at Purdue, Coach Marx guided the Boilermakers to new heights as his pitchers set team records for strikeouts. At both Campbell and Purdue, he coached position players and pitchers. He knows both sides of the ball and knows them very well. He is a tireless recruiter, he is a terrific teacher, and most importantly, he is a great father and husband. And it is my pleasure to officially introduce Campbell's head baseball coach, Chris Marx.
Thank you, Hannah. I can't tell you how exciting it is to see so many familiar faces, right? Shake some hands and see people that we haven't seen for several years. I first want to start by thanking Dr. Creed and Hannah Bazemore for allowing my family and I to come back to a program that has meant so much to us over the years and ultimately help fulfill my dream of becoming a head coach here today. So I also want to thank all of you that are here to coming out and supporting us on this day. I'm smart enough to know that I get the spotlight and the microphone today, but ultimately none of this is about me. It's about the players in this room and the people that are in this room that care so much about this program and want to see the continued success and want to see it soar to new heights. We're all here for the same reason. My preparation and journey for this moment started almost 20 years ago. I was hired as an assistant coach at the University of Southern Indiana. My duties included coaching the outfielders and assisting with the hitters. After a couple of seasons, our pitching coach, who was the main assistant, left to take a head coaching job. And our head coach was able to transition over to coaching the pitchers very seamlessly. And I always admired that. I thought it was incredible because it's very unique in this sport, right, for people to be able to do that. And so I knew if I ever had the opportunity to tackle that challenge in the future, I would love to do that and learn because I knew it would set me up for an opportunity like this at some point in my career. Since then, I've successfully led half of a program multiple times in multiple places. We've set school records, multiple school records. We've led a great culture at every stop that I've been, and I couldn't be more excited to put those two things together and lead an entire team starting here this year and starting today. Everyone's aware of the challenges that lie ahead of us, but to me, ultimately, that is the most exciting part of this deal. The truth is there's always been challenges. This place was built on a bunch of nobodies from nowhere a lot of years ago that had a chip on their shoulder. Maybe they were passed over by other programs. Maybe they weren't recruited by other places, and they wanted to go to a place where they could put their head down and just try to see how good of a person and how good of a player that they could become. That will remain the same today, okay? So in the world of 2024, the college athletics has become increasingly transactional with the transfer portal and all the things out there. Our role has been and will remain to be developers of men that can go out in the community and be great leaders in the community, great leaders in their household when their time at Campbell is done and finished. There's a really good blueprint for development that's already here, a set of standards that the people from the outside, everyone in here will be looking at myself and our coaching staff and our players to uphold. But I'm here to tell you that the brotherhood is alive and well. A week ago, right, when the job was announced, the first text that I received with my phone binged 150 times in a row was from Zach Neto, the shortstop for the Los Angeles Angels. Since then, I've heard from a bunch of different alumni from different time periods. I've heard from past coaches. I've gotten to connect with these players that are here. And it just goes to show you how important this place is, right, from people that might not be able to be in this room today, but people that have a lot of respect and love for what goes on here on a day-to-day basis. Ultimately, the workman-style attitude is still alive and well. I've been here for almost a week. I've gotten to watch our pitchers go through tremendous processes, incredible attention to detail, just kind of paying attention out the window, watching them go through their work. It's elite. I've seen hitters set up the field on their own outside of my office window. I've seen them leave the cages and come in here and in my office and tell me to have a good night between 10 and 11 o'clock at night for every night in a row, which says a lot. This is July, right? Nobody's forced those guys to be here. They are here on their own, ready to work and get after it, and that is a special thing that does not happen a lot of places. Our job moving forward is to continue to show those guys what it takes, right, to clearly communicate that accountability and discipline will ultimately lead to their successes in the future, that there will be challenging times and hard days ahead, but that's ultimately what prepares us for battle. Ultimately, the people that sit in that room on August 21st at our first team meeting, the bond will never have been thicker, right? The chip on the shoulder will never have been greater, right, than it will be in that room. And I'm here to fuel that fire every single day. Lastly, we just want to eliminate fear. I think that fear is the single most limiting factor to people moving forward and accomplishing the things that they want to. We are going to continue to push the limits of development and our preparation. We want to continue to be outside the box thinkers. We want to run away from the status quo, and ultimately we'll let the wins and losses take care of themselves. Nikki and I want to thank you all for welcoming us back into this community. We can't wait to watch our boys run around Jim Perry Stadium again. We can't wait to see them grow up in this community. And we want to thank you all for your love and care for this program and for being here today. And we cannot wait to get to work. Roll Humps.
The Fighting Camel Club empowers student athletes to lead with purpose on and off the field. Over the past 3 years, donations to the FCC have helped fund scholarships, facility enhancements, health and wellness improvements, and the greatest needs of the athletics department. With our move to the CAA, the need for your support has never been greater. Memberships begin at just $100 and can get you access to exclusive merchandise and seating. Head to GoCamels.com and hit the Give button. And there it was, the press conference from earlier this week as we welcome Chris Marx back into the Campbell family. He hit on so many things, and folks, let me tell you something. If you haven't spent much time around him, he recruits fast, he coaches fast, he teaches fast, and he wasn't nervous or anything. He was just, that is the speed that he goes to. So many good things about having him here in the program. Hannah Bazemore, our director of athletics, mentioned it a little bit, but you literally couldn't pick someone that has more of Campbell baseball in their DNA in this golden era, because he started this whole thing with Campbell head coach Justin Haire as he was his first assistant. He went from the hitting side of the ball to the pitching side of the ball, was here for 5 years, and those final 2 years were the first of the 5 years where they went back to back to back to back to back into the NCAA tournament.
So think about 15, his first year as an assistant. They set a program record for single-season home runs. He moves to the pitching side. They set, at the time, a single-season record in strikeouts.
That's incredible. And look, if you're not familiar with college baseball that much, this does not happen a lot. Your hitting coaches, especially at the high D1 level, don't go over and become a pitching coach, and they're not successful usually at both.
And he did it at Purdue as well. He started there on the hitting side, worked on the pitching side. You've noted the Greg Goff connection. That's a decade now of understanding the Campbell brand, because Goff was so crucial here, of course, before Haire.
Well, and that's the next point. He left Haire to go to Greg Goff, who Greg Goff was the head coach when Justin Haire was the assistant here, and really started getting this thing rolling. You didn't have the consistency of NCAA tournament appearances, but remember that they turned around a team that won 20-some-odd games year after year after year and had them win a conference regular season title and then a tournament title and then go to that NCAA tournament in 2014, and that just started everything in this golden era of baseball. So literally the last two head coaches, which span nearly 20 years, Coach Marx has been an assistant for. And look, he'll even be the first to admit, and me and you have spent time around both of them, Greg Goff is an old school baseball coach. He is straight out of Central Casting, and he learned a lot of good things and maybe some different things that you need to change in this modern era. And then he was under Coach Haire, who truly built this program, helped build this program from scratch into a top 10 program. So he not only has Campbell in the DNA, he knows the history, and he has really hit the ground running here, because you don't have to tell him where the subway is on campus. You don't have to tell him how to get to the student union. He knows this community, this era, and he loved coming back.
And I know she's no longer full-time in the business, but an added hair addition to Buies Creek with Nikki Marx, a long-time cosmetologist, long-time hair. She used to cut Dr. Creed's hair. He mentioned that in the press conference you just heard. She actually used to cut you and I's hair for minutes, and it's neat, too, just to have that camaraderie, right? Those kids are so ingrained. When they were toddlers, they were at Campbell games, right? And they knew the families, they knew the Bazemore kids. And that's something Hannah's taken pride in, with the Braxton hire as well. People who understand you don't have to sell Buies Creek to these coaches.
Yeah.
And Marx in those statements even said, our brand of baseball is going to be very similar to what you saw, what you have seen at Campbell. It's not this makeshift change. It's still home runs, hit by pitches, stolen bases. it's kind of unique. I don't want to say plug and play, but you take elements of both and you sort of start the program right where it was. You're not necessarily rebuilding, you're just fine-tuning things.
Yeah, and it's just it's an incredible hire that happened quickly. And again, Coach Haire, as we will try to put a bow on what he has done, and I think both you and I, who have worked very closely with the baseball program, I mean, between the two of us, we have broadcast / seen / covered hundreds of games, all the games in the NCAA tournament. We have been around this program so much, and people are like, okay, Justin Haire, well, why here, why now? But he's from the Ohio area. And again, maybe Big Ten baseball isn't at the level of ACC, SEC. Okay, it isn't, but this is going back home from him. And it kind of leads you to look around a little bit, and in the current landscape with the transfer portal, what more could he do here? He did so much here already, and I think keeping a team in the transfer portal era, we've seen it over the last 2 years.
Look at the last 2 weeks.
Right?
You had 7 starters that are now at Power 5 schools.
If you're good, and I'm not saying great, and nothing against some of these players the last 2 years that have gone on, but it's not the top 2 superstars that are going to Power 5 baseball. It's guys that are starters on a pretty good Campbell team, whether that's on the pitching side and the hitting side, and the majority of these guys are going to Power 5. That is the landscape of college baseball. And what they are doing now and what you can do. It used to be much more limited because you only had a certain amount of money in the scholarships, and now you can get around that by the NIL money and the TV money that the Power Fives have. And I think he knew that his way to Omaha, I'm not saying that Campbell can't get there, but a better way for him on what he does now to get to Omaha, which has always been one of his goals, is to go to Ohio State, compounded by the fact that it's home for him.
Well, and what I like to Haire did so much to change this program. The top 10 ranking, I think, is something we sometimes overlook. But to get Campbell baseball a national seed, a top 10 ranking, basically 3 straight months in the top 25, you have the draft picks, which is the development part. But then the reputation of Campbell baseball has changed. The fact now that they are considered by D1 baseball a consistent top 40 program, I think Marx can carry that forward. But 2, that didn't happen even pre-golf. That never would have happened, right? And in the Campbell landscape, how many sports do you say they are consistently in the top 40? Maybe golf, maybe wrestling, maybe baseball. Like, it's not a long list of programs that you go, they can beat top 25 teams consistently. And every year, Haire exceeded expectations, and they got better and better and better. And to have a coach here for 17 years between the head coaching and the assistant, that's a long time at one spot, right? And sometimes new opportunities come up, and he's been rumored for jobs in the past. This isn't the first Hannah even mentioned that she's always had an active list because you never know. You want coaches to do well. Think of someone like Sharon and McDonald Kelly, 3 good years, boom, gets the Michigan State job. That's very common at this level, and the fact that Haire stayed as long as he did speaks volumes to what he accomplished here.
I'll go back to what you said is sometimes some people overlooked 2 years ago that top 10 in the nation ranking. I don't want to say a miracle because of both your and my backgrounds and what we believe, that would be a little too much. But whatever is below a miracle, to make that happen here in Bowie's Creek. And it wasn't just they had a good 2 months and played bad competition and got ranked in the top 10. Yeah, but they were in the top 15 for the majority of the year. They should have hosted a regional. They should have been a number 1 seed. So I also pile that in that they had the resume, they had the wins to be a number 1 seed and to be in the top 10 in the entire nation. That doesn't happen. That, quote unquote, wouldn't happen anywhere else. And that to be the cherry on top of what he built. Let's go all the way back to 2008 when he was an assistant. Campbell won 21 games. Campbell won 27 games. Campbell in 2010 won 28. In 2011, they were 17-37, 3-27 in the conference. They went to the Big South, and that's when things got rolling. Coach Haire, huge recruiter, huge part of that team. They won 41, 49, 41, went to the Columbia Regional back in 2014. Coach Greg Goff then bounces, gets a head coaching job, promotes Coach Haire, and Coach Haire had to rebuild again. He had to find his voice as a head coach, and again, struggling. 35 wins, 26, 25. A lot of people forget this was a 25-32 team before.
Well, we were in South Carolina for that Big South tournament. Yeah.
And here's what you love about it. All the way back to Coach Marx. Coach Marx was there through it. He hasn't known only success here at Campbell and only baseball's brand and only baseball being a national name. He knew when they were struggling to win games in the Big South, and they turned it around. They got the right formula together, and that's when they went on the run. That's when they won their first of the back-to-back conference tournament and regular season championships, and not only going to the tournament, but going to the tournament and making a run. That 2019 year, you remember, Mark's on that staff. They were 2-0 in the regional going into the final day, needing to win one game against ECU. ECU won 2, or that would have been the first trip to the Super Regionals. And he was the main recruiter on that team. He was the pitching coach on that team. Cedric Mullins, recruited by him. Zach Neto, recruited by him.
And Seth Johnson, right? And Seth Johnson was an infielder at a nearby community college. He was not a big-time pitcher. His ability to find those players and clearly develop them. You think of the all-conference players they've had. You think, too, even in this interim run, but the amount of players from the junior college level, that's going to stay consistent with Marks. Finding lesser name programs and converting them into legitimate players. And in this transfer portal era, we see it in every sport now, there's a chance your best player at Campbell may not be here all 4 years. The good news, we can develop a culture, and we've seen with Haire where you build that camaraderie and players stay, but also you can find new players and develop, because it's going to happen in baseball as well.
Yeah, and that's why, too, a lot of people got up in arms when the announcement was made and so many guys went into the portal. A lot of those guys would have gone into the portal anyway that ended up leaving. A lot of those guys came back, and in the landscape of college baseball, whether you are at Campbell or whether you are at Mississippi State or Vanderbilt or Tennessee, if that head coach is no longer a part of the program, you really need to go into the portal, especially with the time frame. A lot of people didn't realize that the portal closed at July 3rd, and so to get your name out there, see what you get. New coach comes in, okay, do you fit with this guy? Do you have an offer that's closer to home? Do you have an offer that's, somewhere else? And a lot of these people took these offers. So that's the thing, too. Even if Coach Haire was here, there would have been the same amount of guys that you see go to a Power 5 in this transfer portal would have gone.
Nate Britton is pitching for Wake Forest next year.
Yeah.
That is a top 10 program. Packy Bradley Cooney's going to Alabama. Peyton Bonds is playing at Rutgers. These players are really good. There's no guarantee. The ability for them to move and transfer and find opportunities, that shows the development Campbell's done. Not that, Campbell can't keep them.
There is no doubt about that.
We're never going to win that arms race. But we can develop good players that have an opportunity to either stay here and be all conference or do whatever they want.
There is no doubt. And make no mistakes about it. Coach Marx has come here and he has a plan for recruiting. He has a plan for a portal because he has done this. But Purdue's not an easy place to recruit to. It doesn't have a long baseball tradition, a recent baseball tradition, and it's in the Big Ten. So he has still had to go out and get guys. They don't have NIL money for baseball coming out of everywhere. So he was able to build teams here. He was able to build teams in Purdue in the transfer portal. Purdue had their best year that they've had in a long time this past year with him as the assistant coach there. So many great things about it. But you also look back at this era that no matter who the head coach is, while the transfer portal was just in its infancy and not really had affected the mid-majors and Campbell so much, that what Coach Haire did, the top 10 ranking is the top. But to have the consistency, and I don't care what conference you were in, and the Big South wasn't as bad as people think it is for the majority of that time. He won 5 straight regular season titles, 4 tournament titles, and went to the NCAA tournament 5 times. One of those, the tournament title that he didn't win, they were an at-large, and that says all you need to know too. They were an at-large in a 3 seed. In
the 3 region finals for me. So that shows
also too.
Not only can you win at X conference, Y conference, you had opportunities to get to a super, and especially the ECU year. I mean, that team not only could have won, had a chance to host a super if things fall right with Louisville, but to get to 3 region finals, one, you're underseeded.
Yep.
And then last year, even the NC State year as a 2 seed, you get back to a final, maybe you run out a couple arms late, but you're playing for a super.
Yep.
And That's the dream for a mid-major. The Coastal Carolina run is so hard to replicate. It's challenging, but to be in that spot every year and have a chance to get to the Super, that's the goal for Campbell baseball. Compete for a Super Regional, and getting to those finals is the ultimate key.
Yeah, you're right, and you hit it on the head, and that just shows you there are so many things you can take and say, it's incredible that Campbell was able to get this at the high peaks, the regional finals. The consistency was outstanding. This is a Campbell baseball program that back in the 50s and 60s would put guys in the major leagues, and it hit a lull, and it was started by our director of athletics, Bob Roller, who is probably one of the few ADs in the entire country where baseball may just be his favorite sport. He grew up as a little kid listening to the Cincinnati Reds, and so when this program started to go, he started to get behind it, put money behind it. Hannah Bazemore was a big part before she was a director of athletics of really helping this team and this program get what they need to reach the heights that they did. So,
by the way, quick shout out for Bob. 5 Bob Roller disciples are now head coaches in
How about that?
College baseball.
How about that? So Justin Haire, thank you for bringing this program up and making it a national name, and so many that helped him get to that point, including those that have helped with donations and have helped support this program, the many assistants that he's had come through, the different support staffs, the different administrators that have helped him build the program, and now he goes back home and sees if he can do it at the Power 5 level. So it should be sensational. But Chris Marx, able to carry on that tradition, not miss a beat. He knows Campbell. He knows this place. Just incredible. And it'll be, again, with the transfer portal, depleted a little bit, but he is going to be working. To remember, too, the portal opens up at the end of the fall as well. So there's a lot of players that get back in the portal when they go through fall baseball and, they don't like where they're at or whatever. So plenty more opportunities for him to bring in people. And by the time February comes, we'll have Campbell baseball again with a former Campbell assistant at the helm.
And I love even in his press conference, you just heard it, he embraced the nobodies from nowhere.
Yeah.
Right? And it's that marketing ploy that was so big in their run with Haire the last 4 or 5 years. That's the style of player they still want. It doesn't matter where you get it from. And also, too, they open next year at UC Santa Barbara. Like, you start looking ahead now to next February.
Right.
You face a team that hosted a regional, and all that combines into there's still plenty of interest in Campbell baseball. He'll just continue to ignite that fire.
Yeah. Since we were able to come back on and a lot of baseball to talk about, since the last time we were on with this, we were talking about, our great track and field team. They were going to probably put some back into the national spotlight. And we definitely have that. 4 different All-Americans, including top 12 finishes. C.J. McBride, we talked about how he has had the talent, just not been able to put it together. 10th place in the entire nation in the high jump. Our 4x400 relay team, 11th. And then Jamal with an A, and Jamel, his twin brother, with an E. How about this? Jamal with an A in the 100-meter finishes 20th in the entire country. Jamel with an E in the 400 finishes 15th, and so many of the Campbell athletes, those that we have mentioned, those that we had not, also were in Olympic trials. Nobody made the Olympic team, but the fact that many of them did pretty well, got to the finals in a couple of things, that just shows you where this track program is.
If Chastity Pickett doesn't get hurt this spring, she probably does make an Olympic.
That's a name
team
that has been left out because of all of that.
Yeah, and for this program, like, I've been watching the Sprint documentary on Netflix this summer. The competitive nature when you're at that level, and like for the Miller brothers to compete for Jamaica, you talk about the greatest country in running, sprinting, any type of track event. It's Jamaican track and field with Usain Bolt obviously kind of headlining it. But man, that's so cool to see our athletes get. We've had some under 23 Olympians, we've had some U18s, but at the true Olympic level, that doesn't just happen in any track and field program. That takes great development.
It also gives us a chance here to talk about football, which is 2 months away. Campbell season tickets are on sale now, but more importantly, coming up on Monday, the 15th, you will be able to get single game tickets for Campbell football, except, now here's something new, listen up.
Got a caveat.
Except for the homecoming game.
Smart man.
The only way to get a ticket for the homecoming game, we're going to come out with a 3-game mini pack, or to get season tickets. So to get your homecoming tickets, a different way to do it this year. The homecoming game, of course, coming up on October 28th, Campbell versus NC-A&T. And we are less than a month from our first 24-25 contest of the year. On the 5th of August, Campbell women's soccer at home in an exhibition game against Wofford.
I just roll my eyes when I hear the 5th of August with the report dates and when these teams come in. But fans, listen here. We got Seawolves, Hornets, Eagles, Aggies, Spiders, and Tigers. I could not have given you a better list of eclectic, animal-loving
like a fever
mascots.
dream zoo.
Yeah, if you want to go to Asheboro in the zoo, just come to Bowie's Creek and watch these teams battle it out, because it is a unique, the way the CA schedule works out. I'm loving it.
We also get to this middle summer podcast that we may have to have next year, even if there's nothing new to report, because we get Evan Budrovich's update on anything he can tell us about his summer appearance on ESPN The Ocho, and also my man gets married in a week. In about 9 days, right?
Oh my gosh, it's right here. Yeah, so the wedding part is great. You'll be invited to the wedding too, Chris.
I'm glad you did that first. So talk about the wedding, the most important thing first.
So Chris, you'll be there. It's we've been engaged now for 2 years, and anyone who's been through long engagements, you know that the closer you get to it, like the first year, it's just you're on cruise control, and then the first couple months you're starting to plan, and then those last 3 weeks you're ultra hyper focused.
Right.
It's not recruiting, so you're not constantly on the phone calling people. But these last couple of weeks, I feel like I'm constantly checking boxes, printing papers, getting tables organized, sitting the right family next to the right people, hiding Hemeyer in the corner so he's not near anybody else, getting the whole party situated.
I already know a lot. The venue is going to be beautiful in that, and we'll have to have a full Evan wedding podcast report after it happens. But I know I don't know what you're most excited about, but I know you told me there's going to be an ice cream truck that's going to come later on in the ceremony, which I think is unique and awesome.
Yeah, if you're a Raleigh native, Two Roosters ice cream is delicious. We got to pick
That's a name drop, but
last week.
Spared no expense.
No, we were going to call Howling Cows at NC State, but they were a little pricey, so we called Two Roosters instead, and they were able to. They have this vintage. It's a Mustang that's connected to a truck, so it has a vintage car, and then the truck's in the back that serves the ice cream. So it looks really sharp.
Man, that's awesome. And can you reveal anything about ESPN The Ocho?
Yes.
Okay.
We have the lineup. That's August 2nd. First Friday. So there's a bunch of sports this year, but the one that I'm doing that's new is the old Papa Shot, where you shoot the basket in a little mini hoop, right?
You kidding me?
So I don't know who these competitors are yet. We learn them as we get closer, but imagine standing about 8 feet away and trying to nail these Papa Shots.
No, ESPN The Ocho, everything you can kind of see, but that's a new one on me. Oh man,
they always have new ones every year. That's the new edition. And Major League Paintball this year.
Wow,
they're adding in the sport of paintball.
Our Evan Budrovich back on National Network again, ESPN2, August 2nd, as he will be on there from The Ocho. I hope nothing big breaks here in the next month that Evan and I have to come on. We appreciate you listening. There have also been some great things put out as going into overdrive. It's been very golf-centric, which is fun around the U.S. Open. But Stan Cole, if you're listening to this, scroll back a little bit and you can see Stan Cole's Tales from the Creek podcast. He has a two-parter with Brad Fritsch. Some of you that might not be familiar with that name, he was a guy that barely a walk-on from Canada when he came here on a golf scholarship, and then he ended up being a PGA pro for nearly a decade and on the different things. He's a great guy. He's a great listen. Also some great stories. So Tales from the Creek. More will come up between now and the beginning of the season. And then, of course, the Evan Wedding podcast. Good
luck to Jesper Svensson.
Yes.
Competing in the Genesis Open, which is the prelim, and then the Scottish Open, or the Open, the following week.
Yeah, just sensational as our golfers, as we talked about. Jesper is one of the top players on the world tour, what used to be the European tour. For Evan, I'm Chris. Last time as a single man, Evan Budrovich. I'm Chris Hemeyer, happily married. Thank you for listening to the Camel Call Podcast.